Most dismiss Kundalini as a modern fad, but in truth, it is an ancient current of raw power, a lightning bolt coiled at the base of the spine. Handled with reverence, it can awaken hidden realms of consciousness. Mishandled, it can unravel the mind. For centuries, this knowledge was guarded, passed only to those deemed ready. Today, fragments drift into the modern world, stripped of their caution. Remain with me, for by the end, I shall reveal the timeless safeguards, practical, grounded, and aligned with science, that honor both tradition and your well-being. First, let's look at why Kundalini was kept a secret, and I will discuss the ancient safeguards and the hidden map. For generations, the guardians of Kundalini knowledge took extraordinary care in how they shared its secrets. The main reason wasn't to create mystery or to elevate themselves, but to protect the well-being of those who sought this path. In the ancient yogic and tantric traditions, a Kundalini awakening was never treated as a casual tool for self-improvement. Instead, it was respected as a potent inner force, often described as a coiled serpent at the base of the spine, capable of awakening profound insight or, if mishandled, causing real psychological and physical turmoil. This caution wasn't theoretical. Classical sources like the Yoga Kundalini Upanishad and the Hatha Yoga Pradipika lay out an ordered training protocol for anyone wishing to approach a Kundalini awakening. Before any advanced energy work, students had to complete shat karmas, purification practices to cleanse the body. These were followed by strict ethical restraints, known as yamas and niyamas, emphasizing truthfulness, self-restraint, and compassion. Only then did training progress on postures called asana, breath control, or staged pranayama, and energy locks or bandhas. Guidance from a qualified guru was considered essential at every stage, not as a gatekeeper, but as a mentor, ensuring each step was understood and integrated before moving forward. Rather than a power play, secrecy functioned as a pedagogical filter and an emergency safety measure. The ancients understood that rushing or skipping steps could destabilize the mind and body. That's why, in texts like the Garanda Samhita, the teachings are often encoded in metaphors, riddles, and symbolic language. This wasn't meant to keep people out, but to ensure that only those with the right preparation could interpret and safely apply the knowledge. The tradition viewed each step as a gate that needed careful unlocking, with the guru acting as a guide to navigate this intricate inner map. To give you a sense of how this secrecy played out beyond India, consider the early Western encounters with these traditions. In the early 20th century, Sir John Woodruff translated key tantric texts under the pseudonym Arthur Avalon because open discussion of such material was considered scandalous in the West. This historical moment highlights how even outside the original lineages, Kundalini teachings were seen as powerful, risky, and not meant for casual consumption. The internal map described in these traditions details three main energy channels, or nadis: the Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna, running along the spine with intersections at key points known as chakras. For someone untrained, these teachings could seem like a complete mystery. But for those who followed the prescribed path, the map offered a clear, stepwise process for transforming body and mind. Each chakra was viewed as a gate or threshold, each with its own qualities and challenges. Awakening them required not just knowledge, but readiness, physical, ethical, and psychological. Secrecy, then, was a form of stewardship. It protected the depth and nuance of the tradition, ensuring that the teachings weren't diluted or misapplied. In many lineages, initiation rituals marked a commitment, not just between teacher and student, but with the energies themselves. This approach helped to preserve the heart of the practice and minimize the risk of harm. Today, it might feel as if the hiddenness of these mystery teachings is a relic of the past. But the underlying principle remains. Real transformation happens step by step, with care, preparation, and guidance. The tradition's safeguards were designed to nurture growth, not to exclude. As we move forward, it becomes clear that the journey through a Kundalini awakening isn't about flipping a switch or chasing instant enlightenment. It's a gradual ascent, structured around the body's own network of channels and gates, each stage building on the last. Now, before I continue, I know you're here because you're looking for deeper truths. If you do not know presently, you will soon learn nothing happens by chance. Subscribe now, and let's keep walking this path together, now with a base understanding of the Kundalini. Let's discuss unlocking the energy, the real path through chakras and nadis. When it comes to unlocking Kundalini energy, the real path winds through the chakras and nadis, not in a rush for instant transformation, but through careful, attentive, and deliberate steps. Many people imagine a Kundalini awakening as a sudden explosion of energy, something that can catapult you into enlightenment overnight. But the classical tradition describes a different process. It's less about fireworks and more about steady progress, where each stage matters and each chakra checkpoint along the way shapes the outcome. The traditional map highlights 7 major chakras, beginning at the Muladhara, or root, which grounds you in basic safety and stability. From there, energy moves upward through the sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, brow, and finally the crown chakra, known as Sahasrara. Each chakra is seen as a gate, an area of growth, healing, and challenge. Alongside these centers, 3 main nadis, or energy channels, are described. Ida flows to the left, Pingala to the right, and Sushumna runs up the center of the spine. The Sushumna is considered the main passageway for a Kundalini awakening ascent. In the rush to experience something profound, modern seekers sometimes overlook the importance of this sequencing. But the tradition warns against shortcuts for a reason. Each chakra holds its own lessons. At the root, you work with survival and fear. At the sacral, creativity and emotion. At the solar plexus, your will and sense of identity. If you try to force energy upward without stabilizing these foundations, you risk confusion, emotional turbulence, or even physical symptoms that can be hard to manage. It's like running high voltage through wiring that isn't built for it. Things can overload, short-circuit, or break down entirely. This is why the journey begins with purification. Shatkarmas are traditional cleansing practices for the digestive and respiratory systems that are preparing the body for deeper work. Ethical principles, yamas and niyamas, guide your actions and mindset, ensuring you're grounded in honesty, restraint, and compassion. Asanas, or physical postures, follow them not just as exercise, but as a way to prepare your nervous system. Pranayama, or breathwork, is introduced next. In this context, pranayama means precise, controlled breathing designed to regulate prana, or life force. The Yoga Kundalini Upanishad places special emphasis on pranayama, treating it almost like a master key to the entire system. As you gain experience, more advanced techniques come into play. Bandhas are energetic locks that guide breath and prana through specific pathways. Mudras are hand or body gestures that helps direct subtle energy flow. Each is introduced gradually, only when the practitioner is ready. It's like tuning a delicate instrument. Too much tension or the wrong adjustment can create discord instead of harmony. The importance of this stepwise process isn't just theoretical. There are real-world cases that show what can happen when these safeguards are ignored. For example, a documented clinical report describes a 19-year-old who, after unsupervised Kundalini practices, experienced a sudden rush of energy to his head, then heard commanding voices, and became nearly catatonic. He required hospitalization and medical intervention. Cases like this are rare, but they do highlight why proper sequencing and guidance are important. That said, not all awakenings follow the same script. While many traditions aim for a gradual, integrated rise to avoid destabilization, research and personal accounts show that some Kundalini awakenings can be spontaneous, sometimes gentle, sometimes overwhelming. This variability is another reason why respect for the process and self-awareness are key factors. When you move through the chakras and nadis with patience, you give yourself time to learn from each stage. It's not about restriction, but about creating safety and depth. Each step allows your body, mind, and emotions to adjust and integrate the changes. The tradition encourages you to listen deeply, to notice subtle shifts, and to honor the wisdom of slow growth rather than chasing dramatic results. Some skeptics wonder if all this mapping is just a poetic metaphor. Is there any real evidence that these energies and channels exist, or is it all symbolic? These questions are becoming more common as modern science starts to examine meditation and Kundalini-adjacent practices. Researchers are asking whether the experiences described in ancient texts have measurable effects on the brain and body, and what happens, both positive and negative, when people engage with these practices today. The science and the shadow, modern insights, controversies, and how to engage safely. Curiosity about a Kundalini awakening often leads to the question, if this energy is real, why hasn't science pinned it down? The stories you hear of blissful breakthroughs and sudden breakdowns seem to demand a clear answer. Modern research has begun to explore what actually happens in the mind and body during practices that overlap with the Kundalini tradition. Using different types of scans, scientists have measured changes in brain function during meditation, chanting, and breathwork. For example, advanced meditators sometimes show increased gamma band oscillations, about 25 Hz to 42 Hz, and greater synchrony between distant brain regions. These are measurable, physical effects, not just stories or metaphors. Still, what science finds doesn't always match the ancient imagery. Neuroscience hasn't discovered a literal serpent at the base of the spine, but it does record changes in brain waves, improved immune markers, and shifts in how emotions are processed. After regular practice, many people report feeling calmer, more focused, and more resilient. These changes show up in the lab as well. Increased connectivity in regions tied to self-awareness, and sometimes even stronger immune responses after consistent chanting. Yet there's no medical test that can declare Kundalini has awakened. The effects are real, but the language is different. Science tracks patterns, while tradition speaks in symbols. Some practices from the Kundalini tradition have even made their way into clinical research. Kirtan Kriya, for example, is a simple mantra, meditation that's been studied for its effects on mood and memory. In one random controlled trial, older women at risk for Alzheimer's practiced Kirtan Kriya daily for 12 minutes. The results showed improvements in mood and some cognitive measures. Participants felt less anxious and more mentally clear. However, the study was small, and the memory improvements were mixed. It's a promising start, but not a magic bullet. Science moves slowly, always testing and retesting, and every positive result comes with a note of caution. Early findings need more research and bigger, more diverse samples. But while the benefits can be real, the risks are just as important to understand. Kundalini syndrome is a term for the distressing symptoms that can erupt when someone pushes too fast or practices without support. These aren't just vague warnings. They're documented in clinical reports. Red flags include persistent insomnia, hearing commanding voices, intense or delusional beliefs, episodes of catatonia, or a sudden inability to function in daily life. If you or someone you know experiences any of these, it's crucial to stop intense practice and seek clinical help. The old traditions knew that guidance matters. A skilled teacher can help you pace yourself, interpret unusual experiences, and avoid common pitfalls. But today, the landscape is crowded with commercialized systems and branded teachings. Commercial programs sometimes promise rapid awakening or sell activation upgrades, but these shortcuts can strip away the safeguards that protect your well-being. When ancient practices are repackaged for quick results, the wisdom of slow, steady progress often gets lost. So, how do you move forward safely if you feel drawn to explore? The first step is to start gently. Simple daily practices, like short mantra meditations or mindful breathing, let you experience benefits without risking overwhelm. If you want to go deeper, seek out a qualified teacher, someone who's trained in both the tradition and modern safety protocols. Avoid unsupervised intense breath retention or advanced bandha instruction, especially if you're new. Listen to your body and mind and remember that any distressing symptoms are not a sign of failure, but a signal to pause and reach out for support. The bridge between ancient wisdom and modern science is still being built. What's clear is that true transformation takes time, care, and respect for both the tradition and your own limits. As you consider your next steps, remember, the strength of this spiritual path has always been in its careful preparation. Growth happens when you move forward with awareness and patience, not by chasing quick fixes. Before bringing this video to a close, we would like to thank you for giving us some of your precious time. Please check the description below for a special gift we have for you. As you consider your own journey, remember, Kundalini's teachings were hidden for safety, careful preparation, and later shaped by cultural stigma and commercial repackaging, not to keep you out, but to protect and guide. If you feel drawn to this path, start with short, evidence-backed practices like Kirtan Kriya or mindful breathwork. Seek out a qualified teacher or a small, steady community that values gradual progress. We'd love to hear about your experiences or questions in the comments below, and if you want more careful explorations of spiritual practices, consider subscribing. In the end, real true power requires skill and time. Until next time, beautiful souls, namaste.